film industries. There are millions of artists, millions of creative people. A very, very, very small percentile ever make it. It's a little bit like the 100-meter final in the Olympics. 8 people made the final out of 6 billion on the planet. They are very special people, which is why I get very irritated with Nigerians not celebrating people who make finals. So artists have a very, very hard road to ever become successful, and it's not easy. So to fail, you first have to try to fail. So keep trying. Even if you fail, get up and try again. We can't discuss Nigerian music without Fela Kuti, the king of Afrobeats, the original, the poet, the prince, the rebel, the philosopher. We can't discuss Nigerian music for me without Bongo High Life, which is really from Owerri, with the Peacocks International, the Oriental Brothers. That's the foundation of that music. I love it. And then, in the modern era, I think Blackie, who's my brother, Daddy Shoki, all those guys that came through in the late 80s, early 90s, salute to them.
I'm sure those videos brought back nostalgia. We would end this by asking the Nigerian citizens what generation of music they prefer, the good old days as far as lyrics and content are concerned, or what we call Afrobeats today.
I prefer the old school compared to the new schools. I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you. All my love is out for you. Still, nothing could. No.
If you love a woman, tell her that she is the one. Something like that. I think really love a woman. No.
Old generation, I think, is the best because this generation of these days now they always sing about love. But back in the days, what they sing is meaningful.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Raise, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayua Mesale, and tonight I'm joined by my amazing co-anchors, Isi Fodler, the lady in the red hair, and Nome Fanga, the lady in the brown, urban hair.
And Osayua, the lady in the black hair.
As always. How are
in
you?
the coal color hair.
Isi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's
How was
another
your
Monday.
weekend?
It was quiet. I tried to rest as much as I could, but yeah, we are again. It's another week. Let's keep going.
I can see you're looking all ready for the week. You're ready to take on the week.
I don't think so.
How was your day and how is the weekend? How was the weekend for you?
Wow, interesting. Let me put it that way. It's been an interesting one. And I probably didn't think that I had the energy that I had today, but somehow it came from within and showed up at the time of need. So I'm just in a happy place, as usual.
Let me talk like the motivational
Aspire
speaker.
to conspire.
Yeah, aspire to
There was nothing inspiring about the experience, but I aspire to perspire.
Awesome.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh.
It's been a good day. All right, so today we're having an interesting conversation that I'm really looking forward to having, and we're talking about history and culture. And here's what we found as today's quote: the more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future. This from Theodore Roosevelt. I mean, this is a very apt quote for the conversation that we're having today, given that history matters a lot, because it helps us as individuals and as society to understand why our society are the way they are, and why and what they value as a people. If you look at Nigeria, they keep asking, what's the Nigerian dream? Nobody can say, you know, what we value, you know, every now and then, because we do not understand who we are, we do not know our history, we don't know our culture, you know, so some of these things, when we forget, then we actually lose, you know, who we are, and we're unable to actually even plan for the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you do not have a past, you don't
have a future. Yeah. Exactly. And another thing that also comes to mind is this, that without you knowing about the past, you might just repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So history is not just about us knowing about past events, it's also knowing about what has happened in the past, and for us to avoid, you know, making the same mistake that had happened in the past.
Absolutely.
So it's important.
All right, so Olufisayo Bakare is here to talk to us, yes, on history and culture. But first, we'll take a break, you know, to see what we found in the news. You're still watching Ways Now. Roller Coaster Day is celebrated annually on the 16th of August. The origins of the celebration are not completely clear. However, the most widely believed explanation for Roller Coaster Day is that the date was chosen to mark the 16th August 1898, which was when the very first patent for a roller coaster ride was issued. Now, the date has been marked by fairgrounds and fans of roller coaster all over the world since the 80s. Roller Coaster Day was created in order to celebrate these fun and thrilling rides that you can enjoy when you go to a theme park. It is also the perfect opportunity for you to have some fun and take a ride on a roller coaster near you. Roller coasters tend to be found in theme parks and amusement parks all around the world. This is not for me. I'm sorry.
Funny enough, I'm looking forward to an opportunity to do that. Seriously.
You that you're prim and proper, you now hold your eyelash.
No, that day I definitely will be having one on, but it's part of like letting go and being free. I'm actually more open to these things now that I'm older than when I was younger. I would never try it, but now I'm actually looking forward. Unfortunately, COVID has happened, so it's still in our bucket list, and at some point we'll be enjoying the ride. So roller coasting.
How about you, sir?
No comment.
No comment, really? I thought you were adventurous.
Oh, yes, I'm totally adventurous with that. Like, you know, she said that she was looking forward to it when she became an adult. But I have always looked forward to it, even as a child. So it's interesting that, you know, I have to go through all of these in my younger age and in my older age. You can't stop being a child.
Right.
I love
It's
roller
not like I do not
coaster.
love. My heart cannot take it. I cannot go and die because of it.
No, but it will pump your,
your adrenaline,
that
Do you know
rush.
the one that-
It's better than
just
being in a
want
race car, if you ask me.
No,
no.
any day I
No
will pick
race
a race
car.
car.
Really?
Never. No race car for me. I'm not
I'm
an
a speed
adventurous.
lover. I love speed. So if I were abroad, trust me, I would have been in Formula One.
So you know,
can't control the race car, but I can
I
control this one.
I struggle with phobia for heights. So part of trying to break those is exploring these options. So roller coaster ride would be probably a very beautiful scrambler for me. So I'm looking forward to
I went
it.
on one like that. There was one person, my friend's husband, he was screaming, blood of Jesus. He said, Father Lord, if I come down from this thing, I will never sin again. I will never.
Why didn't he confess all the things in the process? That would have been more interesting.
But I think I will go on it. It's just that every time my heart will just be
But
pumping.
I'm not sure I can go alone. I'll probably go with one or two strong-minded people to help me.
I actually went on it when I went to Dubai. It was interesting, honestly.
No, I can't.
I didn't want to talk about it, but
Let's not
it
go
was
there. Let's not go there.
interesting.
You see all the ones you have abroad. Now them be the real roller coaster. The one you have in Nigeria, you're learning. I'd rather even manage the ones you have in Nigeria here.
Really?
Those ones. Like
Do we have?
guy.
Do we have? Oh,
yes,
we have some
we have
places.
one, there's one I went to. Let me not do advert for them, but they're on Lagos Ibadan Expressway.
Okay.
Not bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Okay.
All right. So who's going first? What did we find in the news? Let me come to you, Norma.
This one seat. All right, so I found interesting in the news the fact that Lagos State Police Command said that it has commenced around-the-clock stop and search operations and patrol of the Lekki-Ajah area of the state, where robbers have been reportedly disguised as beggars to harm innocent and benevolent citizens. So there have been police operatives, distributed along that axis to ensure that people are being searched or people are watched to be sure that they're just beggars and not armed robbers disguising or criminals disguising as beggars, right? So it's interesting because I haven't had the experience of, but at a point, I think we shared this some time ago, when we were saying you could drive to a traffic light or stop, and you have young men just flood around the car, looking very suspicious, and sometimes even in the evening like this. So it became very unsafe to just drive alone without having
the Amara access. We experienced that a lot. Even a number of our co-hostess also experienced it as well. At some point, there was one that actually, flashed a gun at Osaiwame during that period. So it is something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, I'm glad that Lagos State Command is looking into it and being on top of things. I'm hoping that it will be sustained, because sometimes to make the news, they just do something, rally around, and after a while the steam blows
over.
So I'm just hoping it will be sustained.
How about you, Isi? What did you find first in the news?
Okay, for me in the news, what resonated with me was the story by the governor of Katsina, who says that he has an idea of how kidnapping actually started in the Northwest. So with the caption, how cattle rustling grew into kidnapping banditry in Northwest by Massery. And he said that basically that it actually started with the influx of people from the North or North Africa, and calling the names of Mali and Libya, as well as Niger Republic came to play. And he also said that they are trying to, trying to resolve this issue based on them getting about 500 individuals to come in as vigilantes to attend to the security issues or insecurity issues in the North. So to me, it's not about them bringing in these people to, becoming vigilantes. My thing is, what are they giving to them? Because there was a story that was taken a few weeks or a few months ago about them arming the northerners with slingshots to actually, is that slingshots?
Yeah, that's what we call it in the north.
Call it the
That's what we call it. Well,
to actually protect themselves. Meanwhile, these guys who are actually the bandits are coming out after them with sophisticated weapons. So what are we doing? The key thing here is not about them saying that we have 500 people, it's about telling us in specifics what are they doing to resolve this issue. Whether they are northern governors or they are individuals, what are they doing collectively to resolve this issue?
So my story, I think there's nobody that's not seen videos of Afghan residents scrambling and going on aircraft to want to board the planes, to evacuate, to run away from Afghanistan. Of course, the Taliban took over.
After the Americans have left.
The president also left, is gone missing. People are calling him cowards, but we think concern the man. The man is gone. This video, when I saw this video, I thought it was a joke until I saw, they couldn't find the other video, but there's another video that you would actually see literally, the plane is right in the air and you see human beings dropping like flies.
Quite graphic.
It was so painful to watch. And of course, there was another video of the Afghan, the Taliban's already sitting in the presidential lodge and already having dinner and all of that. But this is a crisis going on currently in Afghanistan. And my story said the NATO, there will be an emergency meeting, right? Let me just pull it out. There will be a NATO Secretary General, that's the Stoltenberg, said that there will be, they'll hold an emergency crisis meeting to talk about the current situations that is happening in Afghanistan. So we're hoping that, whatever it is, there will be peace and resolution. I really do not know details in terms of what is going on or what's been transpiring, but from different news, different quarters are saying that it is long overdue. The US have been in this place for about 20 years now. So this is long overdue. They should leave them to govern their problems, because they say some quarters have argued that this is a propaganda. A lot of times, the US always cook up some kind of sentiments and all of that just to be able to keep a country down. So this is welcomed in some quarters, while some people are saying that the reason some of these people were running after the aircraft, trying to run away, because they will be considered as sellouts. And this is like a Sharia kind of country, and what happens to
executions will take place.
So that's why they would rather, let me die trying to escape than stay back
than be slaughtered or executed.
So hopefully they'll find a resolution, but I'll keep my eyes on the story.
Yeah, we need to, because I wonder, my thoughts are, could there not have been a better way to transition this government?
Well,
in such a way that
it's not. It's like, how we've been spending a lot of money, security votes and all of that, pumping lots of money into a place, and it seems like somebody's just eating up the money and all of that. So there's a lot of funds that's gone into
Afghanistan,
trying to secure peace,
from the US, you understand? So there is a lot of funds that have gone into. So we do not know what the situation is, but we're hoping that from this meeting tomorrow we can now tell what would be the future and the outcome of this, All right, so we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll be talking culture and history. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Welcome to The Breakfast.
A breakfast where we unbundle top and big stories of the day.
Is vaccine the only way out of this pandemic?
No, definitely not.
Many Ghanaians just want a peaceful election and they are hoping there will be no rigging.
There is nothing bad in borrowing for infrastructure. The minister added that he was impressed.
Please come and see yourself what we are doing with the money we are borrowing.
It's very important. The way we brand ourselves is the way people will carry us.
It's just the driver of the two vehicles that were completely bad.
This one was here screaming.
What do you recommend the government do to support this sector?
Direct intervention, that's what every government all over the world has done.
We are not a parallel ticketing structure. Amotepu core is a complementary core.
What I will not encourage Christians to do is to carry dagger and follow anybody. No.
Join us on The Breakfast, 7 a.m., Monday to Friday.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6. So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. There's another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, history helps us understand change and how the society we live in came to be. The second reason history is inescapable as a subject of serious study follows closely on the first. The past causes the present and so the future. Now, because history gives us the tool to analyze and explain problems in the past, it positions us, right, to see patterns that might otherwise be invincible in the present, thus providing a crucial perspective for understanding and solving the current and future problems. In addition to its intrinsic value, culture, on the other hand, provides important social and economic benefits with improved learning and health, increased tolerance and opportunity to come together with others. Culture enhances our quality of life and increases overall well-being for both individuals and communities. So how well do we understand our history and our culture in Nigeria? Now let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. All right, so I'm going to bring in Sayo in like in a minute or two. I just wanted to hear how well we understand. She's always going back in the day. I said, Isi is going to love this topic because any small thing back in the day. You know, but tell me.
A conscious effort not to actually say that today.
Well, you can't help yourself. But tell me, you are a very cultural person, and you actually have some good sense of, you know, history, you know, especially when you in your communication. You know, how has that helped you? And, you know, do you think young people today, or Nigerians in fact, not really young people, understand our culture and our history?
Most of us today, we do not understand our culture and we do not understand our history. And this stems from the fact that, you know, back in the days...
You couldn't help yourself.
No, let me rephrase it. I have to rephrase it. In the past, what actually happened was this, that, you know, we had the oral tradition whereby we have our grandmother sit beside us, tell us stories and, you know, folk tales and tell us what happened, you know, and we'll learn from these stories. Then we also have the written tradition, which is also another part of history, the written tradition in which we have it written down and which is also distorted because it's based on what somebody must have said and must have changed it over time, and the story is not probably what it used to be. Then we have our digital tradition, which is what we have today. The digital tradition, which is what we have today, has this, like they say, the internet doesn't forget. So that is our history for today. So yes, we have an idea of what we have in Nigeria, but do we have a perfect understanding of what it is? The answer is no.
How about
we
you?
Do not have it.
Nama?
I agree with Isi because I remember when we were in secondary school, history was not a fun subject for me, but it was informative because at that time we were able to get info. I knew about Usman Danfodio, you know, the transition, that period. I learned about oh gosh, his name Queen Amina was there. There's also that warrior in the southwest that probably the name will come to me. Chaja of Opobo. So names like that. When you tell a child, that's why you're the historian. When you tell a child today, what does that have to do with the price of bread in the market? So like it's not something that they can relate to. I remember in the university as well, I had a project to do, and it had to do with the Nigerian Civil War. And it made me go back to check for history books. I read so much about the Nigerian Civil War. I spoke to my dad, who was in the military at the time and who was part of that war. I interviewed quite a number of people, and by the end of that project, it wasn't even a project, it was just one of those assignments, but I sort of took it really personal. And by the time I finished, the information helped me to understand the Nigeria I was living in at that time compared to what it was before. So I was more enlightened. So when I was going to have arguments with people about the Nigerian Civil War, it came from an informed place. So that was how it helped me personally. But in today's world, our children can't relate with that. So there's a gap. There's a huge gap that needs to be filled.
And that's why this conversation is very important. All right, so with a background in interior design, Olufisaya Bakare has trained her eye to find the rare balance between simplicity with African artistry in her work. Her keen interest in carving the phenomenal out of the familiar has inspired her curatorial practice by establishing her as an ally in the preservation, documentation, and representation of African culture through various arts and form. And we are super honored to be having her tonight with us live in studio. Thank you so much, Fisaya, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I saw you just nodding and nodding and nodding.
Yes.
So would you like to give us like a background of history, our culture, and do you think, I mean, what do you think the impact of preserving this history and culture would be if we truly get it right?
Well, my own path was, I wasn't here for much of an educative career. I went to a British school in Nigeria, and so I was kind of sheltered from the culture, and then moved when I was 13, right, to Rainbow Man's Land, which they teach you their history there. It's kind of part of the curriculum. And then I went to the States,
which you have to go through a historic curriculum as well. And so they enforce it intentionally. Part of my own personal education in history was lost on me through the transitive periods of my life. And so coming back to Lagos, I realized that I didn't really know myself or have an identity or an anchor point other than what I knew about my family members or my grandmother or things that I would pick in conversations with my dad. And so personally, it was kind of a self-discovery through having to go back and look at the past to have a better informed idea of who I am. And that journey had spun in my work as an interior designer, and now more recently in the culture space. And so it's been something that I realize where the loopholes lie because I've taken the time to educate myself where that education was very lacking. And I think my generation is falling victim to ignorance because what happened at the Lekki massacre ought not to have happened. Shortly before then, you know, there was a pandemic and there was a lockdown and there's a lot of introspection at that time. And what I happen to do, I usually don't watch TV or film, but I watched A Journey of an African Colony on Netflix, which is kind of like, yes, is a historic capsule of Nigeria, prehistoric Nigeria. I never really went through books to kind of understand what, you know, these warriors and these names. I watched a play on Moremi at Terra Culture, and so I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I was very ignorant. And that documentary helped me have a better understanding as to why these revolts were happening, because a lot of women were at the forefront. And so we went from a Fumilayo Ransom Kuti to the feminist movement. And it was, in my generation, a redo of what happened historically. And I knew at that point in time that I needed to try to readdress the minds of my peers through culture, history, and education. And so I stopped going to the protest grounds and I started formulating ways in which we could infiltrate the system through those three-pronged approach.
Absolutely. Before we go into that three-pronged approach, tell us a little bit about your grandmother.
Oh.
You know, yes. It would be nice for us to understand who she was.
So in her time, Mami wagons were what people were riding.
I love her name.
No, Mami wagons are
right.
Her name was Ashabi, but I called her Mama. I actually thought that was her name growing up. Everyone called her Mama. So Mama was a woman that taught herself how to drive the Mami wagons, and she had 3 of those in trade. She was an Adire dyer. She could speak Hausa fluently through trade, but she was not formally educated because in that time, the girl child was not really something that was praised for.
Attention was paid to her.
Right, but she fought her way through gaining a lot of recognition in her trade, and she was discovered by Augusta Sandstrom, who was a lecturer in the Zaria School of Arts, and she was enrolled automatically into a program by Michael Cardew. I don't know if you know about the 20 Naira note, but there's an iconic figure on the back of the 20 Naira note, and I'll have you make a wild guess, I guess. I have one. No, I wish, but there is a link in the story, so I'll pass this around. I had a prop. I'll pass it around, but that woman was enrolled into a similar program, cross-cultural dialogue, right? She was a potter. And my grandmother, 2 years after, went on the same program with her Adire work. And so these were our indigenous art-making processes. And my grandmother was an indigo dyer in Yoruba, it's Adire. And so she went across the southern states in the United States to showcase how Africans made their clothes before the advent or the interruption by the white man.
Wow.
And so the woman on the back of the 20 Naira note.
Guess?
Sure.
I think I've seen a documentary on this.
Okay.
Is a woman she was just working. Is a random person. She's not really a well-known woman. Am I correct?
Wasn't. Well, she practiced pottery before her discovery. So she was she had very intricate detail. And at that point in time, there was a distinction between just having pots of clay that housed water and then the decorative accessories added onto it, that kind of propelled her into the limelight.
Well, I'm saying she's not a renowned person.
Oh, she's renowned.
No.
Oh no.
Then.
Oh, yeah.
Also, who is she?
Her name is Ladi Kwali.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, so she was definitely one of the forerunners of the new, like the modern or contemporary Nigerian art movement. And she was one of the pioneers of what we enjoy today. Yeah, in the arts.
So let me step in there. We've talked about the impact. We're talking about the impact of our culture and our history, and what also resonates with me is the fact that there is we've lost that love we have for our dialect. Okay, it's actually going into extinction practically. If you ask a little girl or a young 29-year-old, probably they'll say, "Oh, I understand the language, but I don't know how to speak it."
Yes.
So, what should we do about this?
Luckily for me, growing up, my parents spoke to me in Yoruba, and so I had an understanding of how to communicate in the language. I can't really boast of having the enunciation, but because I understand that our language is part of our culture and tradition. These, as you mentioned earlier, were kind of presets to how to live in society. In Yoruba traditional practice, they have the Ifa methodology, and we have folklore as well, and we have the gods, right? But these were icons that these traditional Yoruba people kind of were governed by, and that's how society was built. A lot of these traditions through like omoluabi, that's what they say. It's
what does it mean?
Child that has been raised through these principles and values, and so you kind of have an idea, but you don't really understand. I don't really understand the root of it, and I think the role of language is very important because you understand. Now, I learned in English, and so it's easier for you to teach me in English. But then with my father now, he can swim in Yoruba, he could have a full-blown conversation for hours in Yoruba, and I'll just be looking at him like, okay, great, because there are different grades of it, right? And that's one of the languages we have. We have Igbo and we have Hausa as well. But I think a common thread that we should start adopting is the application and use of pidgin. Because if you look at it through society, we may not all understand, universal. But I mean, we may not all speak, but we all understand. And I think we should start implementing such languages in our educational system to kind of teach the grassroots level as well. Because how do you teach people that are eligible to vote what their rights are if you can't speak their language?
Can't speak the pidgin.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm loving the experience already. But I want to know your thoughts about culture that is not beneficial to the people. Like some people still hold on to culture that is not that over time you see that the results are not productive, and yet they still hold on to it because it's tradition, right? So how do we begin to sensitize people about good culture and bad culture?
Okay, you know what? Before you answer that, let's just go on a very short break. We'll be right back.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
If you just tune in, we are having an amazing chat with Olufisayo Bakare on the impact of preserving our history and culture. Now, you can join the conversation. You can send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. All right, so before we went on the break, Norma asked a question about, some cultures that are not empowering and all of that.
Right.
Do you want to come in there?
I think the individual needs to enlighten themselves. Beyond the classroom, I don't think that education is limited to a school. I think education is something that you see and you note and you learn. And we have to be very awakened in our inner selves to be able to decipher what is good culture and what is bad culture. I love the fact that we have our traditional weddings, but we also have,
in spite of COVID,
the white wedding. And I think there's certain things that the individual will have to do to prove their concept and see, I actually don't need to have a white wedding. What's the reason for that? I just need the legal and,
Almost if I know now that just stop to traditional wedding. It's easy to actually, if you want to with traditional wedding.
Yes, but
I just had my traditional wedding and I had my registry.
That's what I'm saying. It's the registry I don't want. There's no need for it.
No, that's
how it was at a time when we needed to multiply ourselves. Traditionally, we were nomads and farmers, herdsmen, in the different pockets of society that we lived in. And I guess it was necessary for us to reproduce as quickly as possible to have farm hands. But now with, I guess a more enlightened generation, we're now doing a lot more than is necessary. If you look at the Indians, for example, I don't believe that they have white weddings. I don't believe that.
No, they don't.
They have their traditional weddings.
And they've taken their tradition culture everywhere they've gone to. China, the same thing. You talked about three arms. You said education.
Yes.
You talked about
history
and culture. So walk me through, because you said something really profound. Your grandmother didn't go to the four walls of a school, but she was called up into a university to do something. We don't have that today. And I keep saying that not everybody needs to go to a formal, traditional school to learn. We have people that are skilled in some things, and it can be translated. So how are you trying to blend these three legs, and how is it going to, overall impact the Nigerian person?
I personally want to take the lens through the arts, the creative arts. I think people are assimilating our culture through the arts. There's a global gaze on our art production and what Africa can do through the arts. And I think that is what I want to leverage on. It's something that's come naturally to me. And if I'm going to ever be able to achieve this, I need to have it as subtle as possible, but with intent. And intent of purpose kind of goes a lot farther than me kind of rubbing it in your face that this is what I'm trying to do. And so through the creative arts, I believe that we can have more plays like More and Me that I saw at Terra Culture, and you learn about the history through that, this warrior princess, and then you learn through, not a lot of people read, but then if you're able to have bite-sized capsules of what it is you're trying to communicate and try to have it across board for the grassroots and then for the more, I guess, formally educated minds, it makes a unity of purpose in that way, and we're able to celebrate our unique differences and unity and diversity, and what we know that Nigeria is a melting pot of different culture. I believe that we can celebrate each other by amplifying our differences and learning from one another. And so it's through the creative arts that I intend to do that.
Now, talking about the creative arts, I like the fact that you talked about the Indians, and you talked about the Chinese. No, you didn't talk about the Chinese, but when you see the Chinese as well, they've been able to maintain their culture and their traditions as well, which cuts across the Asian world. Now, in Africa, would you say that we have lost our sense of self, based on the fact that we have incorporated so much of the Western world into our tradition? And in the course of this, we have lost our culture, we've lost our tradition, and we've lost our identity. So how do we bounce back from this? And would you say we've lost ourselves?
I think globalization has a very strong role to play in the displacement, but I also believe that we have product, we have raw materials that come out of Africa. And I think Africa will continue to give these raw materials, and it can never really be depleted. For example, we're pushing the flag of Afrobeats, right? We've always had something to offer the world. With that globalization discourse and the exchange, I believe that we can harness our minds to finding what our strong suits are and anchoring onto them. Times are changing. Technology is shifting a lot of what we would have considered tradition, right? We no longer have town criers. You can easily send an email, right? So a lot of jobs are being taken as well in that way. And I think that we need to look at the times and try to understand what you had made a mention of the Nigerian dream. If I went across this table and asked each individual what the Nigerian dream is, as a citizen, we should all have the same answer, but it would not be the same. You might have, you know, like an answer that comes from the roots or your grandmother or someone through your formative years that would have imbibed certain characters or certain values into you, and very similar or very different from yours and mine. And so we can't really have one dream if we haven't sat at the round table to decide if is it beyond the pledge, right? What are you pledging to? Are you pledging to a country that is going to swallow its young, right? Who wrote the national anthem? These are things that an American would be too happy to hoist their flag wherever they are going, because they know it's part of their curriculum. And history was removed from our curriculum 10 years ago. Absolutely. Which means that alongside that the Nigerian dream that we have lost, right? We've also lost a sense of ourselves. So if we had that, it would have continued to shape who we are and what we're intending to do in the next few years. But we have to take a step back to fix what has been broken in the system and then try to build from that foundation. And so yes, I agree that we are quite displaced, but then we also have the ability to change the fractions in society.
Still on the arts, do you think that the kind of music we have today, does it actually reflect what we actually stand for as Nigerians? The kind of music we have today? I
can't really speak on the entire country.
Change that concept of the kind of music we have today?
I think art is subjective, so and I'm categorizing music under the arts. There's a fast-paced change that's happening in the music world. Different genres are popping up. Everyone tries to lump it under Afrobeats, but it's not really Afrobeats. The sounds are different, the messaging is different. One thing that disheartens me is the fact that Fela is still relevant today. This is somebody that prophetically understood the times that he was in. And unfortunately, they're still the same times that we are in now. And I would want to see music challenge that in a bid to first preserve our history, right? Because if you wanted to see how, you know, SARS or the police brutality had happened, and you look at Fela right now in 2021, it's the exact same thing. So that's what disheartens me about that. But with music, I believe that we can shape the minds, because music, it catches on, and you know, even if you're not intending to sing someone's song, like you had said, Malians, right? Yes. How do you know the Malians, right? This is a movement, it's a subculture that influences and permeates every single person. And I think music should challenge and it should awaken the minds of people, just like Fela's music captured the times, right? We should have music kind of do that and shape what is to come, what is coming in the future.
Because you talked about understanding the time, right? We are, what's it called? We have a lot of digital natives as children. I mean, from the womb, they're already pressing
right, yes.
You know, so how are we able to now, how do we tie up, right? Preservation of our culture, history, and it's still very much relevant in their world. Not the traditional way that we know our culture and history to be, like sitting under the mango tree. You understand? How do we interpret that with technology to be able to drive and bring them in? Because if we say we are trying to preserve the future, they are the future.
Right.
And their future doesn't know things like, you know, sitting under town crier. They don't know all of those things. Yes. It's all digital. So how do we tie that up?
I believe higher institutions of learning have a role to play, and this is beyond the university. I believe that museums that are popping up now more than ever in our history are starting to respond to certain things and open their doors to having digital interfaces for children, so you don't have to physically be present for you to see and learn and understand what is being taught now.
Beautiful.
I think there is a lot of groundwork that needs to be done to kind of blow that can open and create, you know, like a viral effect within the culture space. But then there are people that are trying to build institutions from that lens, and I think the best thing to do is to have that information at the fingertips of these young minds, because you might not want to journey into an institution, right? You might still want to preserve the bits of yourself that COVID didn't ravage. But then a lot of people are implementing technology, and so you have virtual tours that are available online for you to kind of see yourself and your children, or your, you know, children in the community. And I think we need to go back into the concept of it takes a village to raise a child, and to be responsible for those within our communities, because we are very communal naturally, and that's something that the African is, right?
Exactly.
But these things are starting to open up, and hopefully we would hold on to that. There was a time when it was the artists that were shaping the nation. That it has been lost in a way, because there's no collective school of thought. We had the Zaria rebels, and it was their numbers that kind of shaped the conversations that we have today in the contemporary art era. And so if we have 5 minds, right? I want to go scriptural, but Jesus had 12, right? And these people shook the world to the foundation. So if you have, there's nothing like unity of purpose and having a strong front. And if we have our Nigerian dream, then we can actually permeate whatever cultural mountains or institutions, and have, you know, like people will know just by your arrival that this is a Nigerian.
Absolutely. Norma, you had a question?
I'm just soaking in everything that she was saying. I remember while she was talking, I remembered a short holiday that was, you know, one of the holidays in Nigeria here, and we decided to take a family trip to Ogun State, and we visited the presidential library, and there was so much information, and all of those artifacts and collections just continued to, they had no idea, the children had no idea about some of those things, so we had to tell some of the stories. You saw some of the cars that were used in the Civil War, things like that. So it's something that requires attention. Now, how do we begin to, I mean, you said a lot about integrated, but we have the digital space now. How can it be used? Apart from the virtual art galleries, what other ways can you, I mean, this is until they probably explore those options, like going on the sites, but are there ways that, like apps or things that can be hands-on that people can actually begin? I mean, have they, in the art field, have they started exploring those options of having apps that can tell the Nigerian story?
Most definitely.
So I think I'll also like to add to that, like, are you doing anything about this education, you know, trying to enlighten people about this?
Okay, so I'll answer hers and yours. So there are animators now that are taking our stories and making cartoons out of them. Beyond that, there are apps that are coming up as digital chess games that people can play. And so you're learning what the Civil War would have been like, because you're putting yourself in that space, and you have a better understanding of what opposition was like, and the like. Things I'm doing right now, I'm working on curating a show that celebrates the contribution of Nigerian female artists. And I think because we are highly a patriarchal society, it's trying to balance, and I don't believe that it's going to balance immediately, but it's to open the mind and drop a seed. That's all my work is. And then once, you know, you had seen something and you wanted to build up on that, on the Civil War in Nigeria because there was a project attached to it. I asked about the 20 Naira note, and I believe a lot more people watching this show are going to actually go back and be like, oh, who is this? And probably Google it because it's the Google generation.
Oh, yes, I just did. Do you want me to read it out to you?
Yes.
Ladi Kwali was a Nigerian potter. Ladi Kwali was born in a village of Kwali in Gwari region of northern Nigeria, where poetry was an indigenous occupation amongst women. She learned to make poetry as a child by her aunt using traditional methods of coiling. Amazing woman. All right, so I have some comments. Quickly.
I just wanted to ask, now I noticed in Fasai's bio something that triggered my interest, the Pre-Colonial Societies of Nigeria program.
Yes.
What's that all about?
It's for young minds, and so we're going pre-colonial era in Nigeria. And
that's going way back.
Way back. Into four societies: the Ife Society, the Igbo Society, the Nok Civilization, and the Benin Empire. And so we're looking, it's the age of reparation, and when we're having our artifacts being brought back, some of the students that come to the facility that we use, they get to see these artifacts. And they get to not touch them, but they have a very intimate relationship with them. A lot of these plaques are in the British Museum.
Yes.
Some of these students in public schools cannot afford to travel to see things that are inherently their own stories that were framed in brass. And so what we're trying to do is to take a step back historically and to bring them up to speed. So there is a sense of pride in being a Nigerian and knowing that, okay, I might not be Yoruba, but I can defend the cause of the Yorubas because I understand what their mindset was when they were creating these things. Same for the Igbos, same for the Benin Empire, and same for the Nok. We're all brothers and sisters at the end of the day, and I think that art has a way to level and unify us, and so does culture.
So history should go beyond storytelling to analyzing of facts that will shape our tomorrow. We as a people are fast losing our identity trying to make up to Western culture. According to UNESCO, at least 6,700 languages are spoken in the world, and 40% are at large of disappearing. So let's go back to our roots. So just, because we actually have like a minute to go. What are we doing for the children? Is this your plans, for education, opening up the minds and trying to take these people on a journey for culture and everything? Is it involving children? Can children come?
Most definitely.
Okay, because it's very important. So how are we going to do that?
We work with the Lagos State Board of Education to try to open doors from public to private to public, so that the minds of the Nigerian are open and not necessarily the rich, the ones that could afford it. And these things are covered by grants as well, so it's not it doesn't take a toll on the educator, as it were. And I think we'll see a rise in the demand for education, because once you open the mind, like I said earlier, questions will be asked.
Absolutely. So you had the final question? We still have 1 minute to go. Or did you lose the question? So Fisaya, when are you? So are we invited?
So
you want to say?
Yes. If you had something to say to a contemporary curator right now, or a contemporary artist right now, what would you tell that person in order to tell the Nigerian story? What would be that?
Channel yourself to the narrative and protect that narrative.
What is that narrative?
The narrative, you have to make that story.
Okay.
Because you have a blank slate. We don't have a Nigerian dream.
Right.
So the more people that catch on to a story or a narrative, the more buy-in you have, right? You asked me if you were invited. Yes, you are. I am creating a show at the Yemisi Shillong Museum of Art, and it opens on the 28th of August at 11. So if you can drive that far down.
I will drive.
Yes, you're more than welcome to.
It's actually close to my house, Atlantic University.
Okay,
so trust me, I'll be there. You sleep over, right? You're welcome. So I would say, just to add to Isi's question, I think whatever dream that you have, about, you know, you said create the narrative.
Right.
Whatever narrative you have, let the narrative be beyond you.
Yes.
We should stop being selfish.
Most definitely.
We should start to live for Nigeria. We should start to think Nigeria. We should breathe Nigeria and eat Nigeria. So everything we do should not just be about a personal achievement, but a collective goal that will move the nation forward.
That's correct.
So whatever it is that your Nigerian dream is, it should not just be about you.
Yes,
exactly.
I think it's a good way to keep the narrative.
Yes. Just to add,
Yeah.
Children, how we incorporate children into, I think no matter how late you think it is, it's not too late. In the area of language, in the area of exposing them to some of these some of our culture, good culture,
Yes.
I think is very important.
Most definitely.
So that they don't lose it entirely and they have no idea what it is.
And because it's been removed from the curriculum, onus is on us to kind of
continue.
collectively build that.
Absolutely.
And to go back to the, you know, child being raised by community, I think it's important. Did you know that there was a woman on the Nigerian Naira? It's a good way to start the conversation. And, you know, that kind of helps them learn about these people and learn about their own personal stories as well, which is their history.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I think that's a fantastic way to wrap the conversation. We hope you come back again.
Most definitely.
All right, thank you, Issy. Thank you, Norma. Thank you so much, Fisaya, for coming. All right, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, we're planning a giveaway to say thank you to you for believing in the ways. But we might just give you tickets to to Fisaya's show. You know, so just call us, follow us. You know, if you'd like to go, I think I would like to sponsor maybe 5 people.
Awesome.
To come watch. You know, you need to go and learn about the history. So if you're interested, just, you know, chat us on Instagram. All right, like, share, comment, and invite your friends and family to watch and follow us as well. So if you missed today's quote, a very important quote, very short, by Theodore Roosevelt. The quote, here it is again: the more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future. This is very key. If you know so much about your past, you will plan better for your future and avoid certain mistakes. All right, we'll see you tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Now, TW Conversations you dey watch now, and we dey inside this lounge with the usual suspects, minus 1 or 2 people. We get Mrs. I, Ebu Feludu, Saudat Salami, and Chisom, and Omoye. We dey talk about something wey dey very important. People will say not be real issue, but me, all of us, well, some of us believe say na real issue. Lying. Oyibo go say fibbing. Wetin be fibbing? Na lie. So imagine this scenario. Meghan Markle don't marry Prince Harry. They will date together. She will call the whole umbrella for her. Feminists go, they say, yes, go park. But question, she dey lie, she dey act. After all, na actress. We dey lie, or we just dey play one role, or na the real genuine truth what we dey do. We go discuss all these issues and many more on TW Conversations. No go anywhere, we'll soon come back. My name now Omoye Zamere, I be actress, as you can see, and producer. So, go come. Hmm?
Go.
Unfortunately, I can't keep up with that pigeon. That pigeon was epic. Thumbs up, girl.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So, we're going to be talking about this lying or fibbing issue. Me, I can say for a fact that I have lied or fibbed many times. I'm coming, 5 minutes time. I'm 5 minutes away from you. We have all done that.
I'm at the toll gate. Chevron. You'll see me now. Now.
So do we want to, is it bad or are there good sides to it? What's really acceptable and what's not?
Well, I think that lying holds us accountable. Oh, no. Lying is bad. And so let me go to pigeon. So you say...
Okay.
So you say, I did for toll gate, but you did for Chevron. You never really reach, or you just did lie. Tell yourself, say, I go talk true, no matter what happen. Meaning, if you did for Chevron, you go say, no vex, so I did Chevron. If you don't want to offend person again, you go did Chevron when you say you did Chevron. What that means is we'll hold ourselves up to higher standards. We'll be accountable to one another. And at the end of the day, we're better people for it. We're more disciplined. People can trust you. I think it's the biggest thing. Lying for me is just such a big deal because it means that I'm not sure if I can trust a person if they're not honest, even when you look bad for being honest. It's not that deep now. It's not that deep. Again, why do we lie sometimes? Or maybe let's call it fib or whatever. Sometimes you don't want to hurt the person's feelings. Sometimes the person's voila is too much. I'm on my way. I will soon be there. Where are you exactly? I'm on my way.
That's me.
And you know, whenever you tell the person that, okay, or you say something and the person goes on and on, because you don't want the person to go on and on, you just say fib or something. You know,
white lie.
A white lie.
Simple white lie.
What
if you just say the truth
genuinely, like tell the person that I know you're pissed, I know you expect that I'm supposed to be here at XYZ time.
That's what we have to do.
Let's
have the conversation. You're able to genuinely have that sort of conversation with people.
Well,
the truth of the matter, though, is that I think that sometimes it's kind to prevaricate.